What's going on YouTube? I hope you guys are all having yourselves a fantastic day. In today's video, we're making another scene here. Now, this was a pretty cool process for me because I started with a vision of making like a pool, backyard sort of chill scene, but if you guys watch the video all the way through, you'll see how quickly it evolved into something completely different. Actually, I guess not completely different, but the vision changed for sure. And in the end, I was much happier with what I came up with than what I originally had planned. So as you can see, as we get going here, I started making kind of just a square little poly world like our previous video, and I used the Boolean effect to make a pool. And then once I got the shape of the pool that I liked, I wanted to add a lounge chair for my character Kevin to sit on, and that's effectively where he would be chilling. So I'm just going to go ahead and speed up this little process here, and we'll check back in a minute. Once I got the shape I liked for the lounge chair, I brought Kevin right next to it just to get a reference of like how big the chair should be, and I was pretty happy with about this size. I adjusted it a little bit more, but I wanted it to be wider than him and obviously longer lengthwise. Now I do have him standing up, but I was just imagining him like kind of laying down or leaning up against the backrest there, so I was pretty happy with this. And so next up, I decided that I wanted to pick the color of what I thought was going to be like the concrete around inside the pool. And this is where the vision like completely started to change. I started to feel like I wanted to make like a beach sort of theme. And so I changed the size of the pool and made it into like an ocean. And the ideas just started flowing from there. I messed around with the texture and tried to make some like grainy sand kind of look, as you guys can see here. So I just played around with the settings until I found something that I liked, and then eventually I started messing around with how the ocean looked. I started to try to add like waves a little bit. I'm just going to speed this up for a little bit here, and we'll check back in shortly. Alrighty, so this was looking pretty good compared to the beginning phase already, and I was much happier with the outcome of this compared to the pool. I thought the pool was pretty boring, and this I already had like a lot more ideas flowing in with what I wanted to create. And so next up, I wanted to add one of those like umbrellas that people bring to the beaches. Now, I personally, or my family, we were never one of the people that brought umbrellas to the beaches. I don't know why, like it's actually pretty useful, but I always saw people at the beach with those like really big umbrellas that they bury into the sand, and it's pretty genius, so I wanted to add one of those in. So one problem I was having with the umbrella was I couldn't really get it to look like a real umbrella, I guess. I don't know what the actual shape is, maybe like an octagon or yeah, hexagon maybe, I don't know, one of those things. But I'm still learning, and overall, I mean, I was pretty happy with like what I had here. And so next up, it was time to put Kevin lounging in his lounge chair. Now this actually wasn't too difficult. I thought this was going to be hard because I had problems previously with like pose mode and stuff like that, but this went pretty smoothly. It just took a little bit of tweaking here and there, and eventually I found what I liked. And this was looking pretty good. I really liked this. Like when I saw this for the first time, when I put it in cycles, I had a smile on my face for sure. But it was time to add some accessories, and before I went to the clothes, For some reason, I wanted to make one of those like metal things that people use or used to use like in the 80s. Like I don't know. I've never actually seen anybody use one of these ever. It's just like in old movies I've seen, but I think people actually used to use them. It's like one of those reflecting things so people can get tan. And I don't know why I thought it would be so funny to make one of those, so I did. And after I finished my reflective tanning device, it was time to give Kevin some beach attire. So we started off with a little hat here, a little sun hat, and got him properly fit for the beach. My man is chilling on the beach. He's ready for it. Anyways, I do want to say I know that is probably not the proper way to mold clothing onto characters in this. It's definitely not the most efficient way. I'm still having trouble getting clothes to stick to my like armature, I guess. Like if I were to model the clothes while he's standing up, which is way easier than after I already set the pose like I did in this video. I don't want to keep making excuses, but I am still learning, so it is what it is, and at the end of the day I got it to work just fine. And I was very happy with how he looked. Alrighty, that's a big change right there on screen. Now I'm only putting a little part of this in because I was struggling to find what I wanted to put in the background, because just like the sand just in the background just going on endlessly wasn't it. So as you can see, I made a giant sandcastle, and it was kind of fun to make, but this just wasn't it. Now I didn't scrap the sandcastle idea completely, I just had to readjust it and find a better way to use the idea, which bam, I thought right here, just like you guys can see now, was perfect for it. So as I just kept going, like I said in the beginning of the video, this whole piece just kept evolving and evolving. Ideas just kept coming to mind. And so part of the background, obviously you saw I tried the sandcastle, but I wasn't happy with that, as I mentioned. And so I decided to try some palm trees, and I was very happy with the result. They were a little bit hard to make, especially the palm fronds, or fronds. Actually, I don't even know what it is. The leaves, branches, oh god, I don't know. But anyways, super low poly and obviously not photorealistic, but I was very happy with the outcome of it. Once I got a shape I liked for the palm trees, I decided that the palm trees needed some coconuts. I guess the overall concept that I learned while making this creation was to just try things out, and more ideas will come. Like, when I decided I wanted to make the palm trees, I didn't think to make coconuts or anything like that. Just ideas just trickle off one another and just kept me going throughout this whole process. So if that's one thing I could pass on from this video, I would suggest that to all my fellow artists, whether it's drawing, whether it's 3D art, video editing. Just try things out and it'll lead you to the next idea, even if the first idea you had didn't work out. So our scene was coming together quite nicely. I added a few more palm trees with, their own coconuts and some on the ground. And at this point, ideas were just going crazy through my mind. Next up, I made a beach ball, and I totally forgot to record that whole process, so you guys can see it in the little corner over there. And then after the beach ball, I made a surfboard because I was thinking about the waves in the water. And honestly, I just kept going after that. Next up, I revisited the sandcastle idea, but instead of making more to the sandcastle, I thought about how sandcastles are made. So first up, I made, a little shovel. I remember going to the beach with like my cousins, and there was always like this little blue shovel that we had while we were digging the sand and stuff. So shout out to those guys, and that was my little inspiration for this little shovel. And I'm not going to give a little cut for the next one too, but I also decided to make a bucket because that's kind of what the sandcastle looks like it's made out of. We used to just fill a bucket and then, flip it upside down and bam, the most basic sandcastle you can have right there. So everything I was making was giving me other ideas and like how to bounce them off of one another and kind of make the scene whole. So again, when I had the initial idea of the bucket, the little red bucket that you see in the corner over there was pretty much all I had in mind, but that wasn't good enough for me. There's always a little handle to these buckets, so that was what is up next. Man, I don't know why I had so hard saying that. That's a little tongue twister. And there we go, now our little sandcastle area is complete, and it has its own little storyline. It's got the bucket, the shovel, and the complete sandcastle. So even though I was pretty happy with how my overall scene was coming together, I still didn't really like the background being just kind of nothingness and just sand, besides like all the accessories and palm trees and stuff I put in there. So it was time for the last and final big change here, where I decided to turn the whole sand area into an island, and this just totally made the whole piece come together. Coming down to the final few touches here, when I was making the surfboard, I was making the little fins on the bottom. I realized that it looked a lot like a shark fin, and so again, the ideas just bounced off one another, and I stored that for later. And so next up, I decided to make some sharks swimming around the water, or swimming around the island rather, excuse me, because what would be a deserted island without it being a little bit dangerous? As I was finishing up the sharks, now I was thinking of sea creatures and sea animals and all the stuff that lives in the ocean. Honestly, I could have probably gone on forever on this. Something that popped in my head was, what if there was like a bunch of little crabs running around the beach? So I decided to try to make some crabs. I was gonna let this whole crab section just play out to the music, but I can't pass up the opportunity to say, I'm making this crab some big, meaty claws. If you get that reference, you're an absolute legend. Drop a like for me. Alrighty, as we're nearing the end of the video here, the last thing I wanted to create was some starfish for the shore. I didn't want there just to be crabs all around there. Now, this was actually a lot harder to make initially than I thought. I just played around with a few different options and then ended up layering two meshes over each other and got this starfish that has more appendages than like the average starfish you would see, but there is like a starfish that has this many appendages, I think. It doesn't really matter. I was pretty happy with it. At the end of the day, I could say he's on an alien planet right now, so Starfish could have 57 freaking appendages if I wanted it to. Oh my gosh, we made it to the end here. Now the final touch for this island was to bring Kevin's UFO in. If you want to see how I created his UFO, you can go ahead and check the previous video. I just got to thinking, like, how the heck did he even get to this desert island here? Or deserted island, maybe not desert island. So I had to bring in his UFO, plop down his UFO, got that all situated properly. And I also tried doing a little bit of animation, and my computer just really couldn't handle rendering it all out. I think it took like 4 to 5 hours for like a second clip. But the stills are just fine for me, and I'm going to let the rest of this video play out to music. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.